Hello, and welcome back. We're here for the following session. This is I believe, the second to the last session now that for the final day of Dare to Be Great for Era of the Headset, and this is going to be an excellent one. I've got my good friend here, Gary Tammy Hill. Sorry, I can't. It always happens now. Gary Hill, 911 coordinator and training officer over at Warren County Communication Center out of New Jersey. And he's going to be doing a session called Is Your Training Better Than Doing the Dishes? Take it away, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Ricardo. Welcome, everybody. As most of you know me from social media, yo, what's up from Northwest New Jersey? We are here today. We actually have a special class, if you will, because I'm not doing this all by myself. We actually have some brand new PSTs in the room today, and we're all going to say hello real quick. Say hello, everybody. And we also have 911 Bowler in the room with us. So we've got everybody here today. So what we are going to talk about is whether or not your training is better than doing the dishes. No, we don't have to do any dishes. No soap, water, none of that is needed, of course. Basically, what we're going to talk about is how can you take your training program today and make it a little bit better? Because let's face it, when we train, if we don't update our training, we're setting ourselves up for failure, right? So we don't want to do that. So we want to make sure that things are staying fresh. We want to make sure that things are up to date and that we have fun while we do it, because that's even better. So when we talk about what we're going to do, who am I? All right. I am Gary Hill. Obviously, Ricardo already said that. I've been involved in public safety for about 35 years. 25 of those have been in communications. Currently, I'm in an administrative role, serving as the capacity of 911 coordinator and training officer. I went out and got all my certifications, not as a obligation, but because training became a passion. And in another class called Ripples, you guys will learn about that if APCO or NENA accepts it. So hint, hint. Who do we have in the audience today? Has anybody here actually been training? How long you've been training? Go ahead and throw those into the comments. Whether you've been doing this for 5 years, 5 minutes, 15 years, you've never done any training, what we're going to talk about today is going to apply to everybody. Because I've been involved in training for at least 20 years, and I'm still learning something new every day. I learned something new from my trainees today. You can always learn something. If you're not learning, you're not progressing. Mike, 12 years. Great to hear it. Lori, training and QA for over 10 years. Don't we love QA? Isn't that so much fun? Yeah, right? What are we going to talk about again today? What are our objectives with doing the dishes? And we're going to find out why we have such a funny title in a little bit here. Recognize the need to update your training. Obviously, in that slide, we show a classroom. The old days, one-room classrooms, right? Everybody was lumped in all together. How many of us are dog moms or dog dads? What was our anticipation of training our loved ones, our pets? All right. It was going to be easy, right? Then we found out, hey, potty training a dog isn't that easy. Well, I've been doing training for a long time, and just because we've been doing it for a long time doesn't make it easy. It actually makes it more challenging, because what we're finding out is that things are a little harder to do. Generational changes. All right. Making sure that we're meeting that student expectation, because that is important. Quality training and documentation. We're going to talk a little bit about that and the validation. Why is that so important? I have to beat up my own center. My own center's come a very, very long way from when I started here back in 1997. We were a baby center. We were only 3 years old. We were still in our learning phase. All right. A lot was happening. All right. We didn't have a full structured training program, and that caused a lot of problems, as you can see there. Now, the other side of that, when we do train, are we capturing the audience? Are we getting their attention? Are they understanding what they are learning? Are you as a trainer getting high marks? Is your training program getting high marks? If it's not, what can we do? You want to ensure that you're getting high marks because that can make the difference between those previous newspaper clippings versus what does then eventually happen. You get the high marks, you then become more accepted in the community. People are more comfortable with talking to you. You now have employee retention because they have a better understanding of their job and they feel more comfortable doing their job. And that's what's important about it. I use this slide here in a couple of different reasons. And it's a very broad meaning to it, that why our training and our documentation is so important. This was from 911 Consulting regarding their active shooter training, right? And we can use this not just in active shooter training, we can use this in any aspect of public safety training. No court or government agency will find you as an employer at fault for failing to stop crazy. But what court and government agency does expect is that every employer know how to respond to it. That means planning. That means preparing your training, preparing your employees, your trainees, your 20-year PSTs and your 2-month PSTs, how to respond when something happens. And when we're training these people, some of the stuff can get kind of boring. Today, we were talking about liability and ethics. Kind of boring stuff, right, guys? It's okay to shake your head. Yes, it gets kind of boring, but we make it a little bit more fun sometimes. So, doing dishes, kind of a funny title, right? Why is it so funny? Well, as it says here, I don't take things personally. Oh, wait, yes, I do. Well, we all have that one person or a couple of people in our lives that we look up to from time to time, that we reach out to for advice. We reach out to for a little bit of guidance. And that happened to me when several years ago, I was putting together a rather large full day in service. And that person I went to and I said, hey, look, can you give me your true, honest opinion about what that in service was like? After not hearing back from that person, I went again and asked face to face. And the response I got was, well, I could have been home doing the dishes. Well, that hurt. No question about it. Went back to my office. I cried a little bit, beat myself up. But in the end, said, wait a minute. You can't let this overcome you. All right. Just means we got to do better. Now, for me, it was doing the dishes. Doesn't have to be. And we're going to talk about why doing dishes, how we break this down into a different form, is to make sure that when you are doing your training, that you are making it successful. And that's what it comes down to, because it's important. Talk about doing dishes and we break down the words letter by letter. Is it different? Is it organized? Interesting? Is it nourishing? Is it genuine? Or are you making stuff up? We don't want to do that. Is it dispatch related? Are you involving the dispatchers? Are you keeping it simple or are you making it overcomplicated? Is it actually helpful? Are you making it exciting? How can you measure it to ensure it is successful? And again, I use this because of the effect that statement had on me, but it doesn't have to be just that. If somebody came up to you and said, hey, it sucked. Well, maybe it did. Maybe that was just their opinion. Maybe it really wasn't that bad. But what you could do is you can turn that around and say, well, instead of maybe it sucked, well, how can we change that up? Can we make sure it was interesting, tactful, successful? Can they understand the material? Is it communications related? Are you knowledgeable on what you're doing? All right. Are you making it exciting? And again, is it dispatch related? So now I just spelled out it sucked, but I did it in a different format to check myself to make sure that what we're doing for our training can be reviewed by others or by yourself to make sure that you're achieving what you want to achieve. So let's go into it and see exactly how we can make that happen. All right. Starting out with different. How can we make it different? Every year, we got to review our EMD protocols. If your state or your agency or vendor that you use, if they have not changed their EMD program, if they've not changed their guidelines, it can get really boring. Why do you need to change it up? Your students are going to check out in a matter of minutes. If you do not keep them updated, tell them why we need to do this, because as adult learners, that's first and foremost, right? They need to know why we are learning this information. If they don't know why, they're not going to pay attention, plain and simple. New presenters, different faces. I told my students today that, hey, it's not just going to be my ugly mug you're going to have to look at for the next 2 weeks. I have other trainers that are going to come in. I do my own call for papers. I put out a sign-up sheet for the training. So this way they can have somebody else come in and teach the same material, but they will provide it in a different way. Changing things up a little bit, making it a little bit more interesting. All right. And then as new information comes out, make sure you cite it. So this way they know that it is new information. Maybe even start out with that. Hey, I understand that we have our new CPR protocols that we're going to go through, understanding when it changed, how it changed, and why it's important for them to understand those changes. If you just go in and say, hey, it's time to do our CPR again without knowing their changes, they're going to check out on you. We've already done this. I don't want to do it anymore. We've all heard that, right? Organized. Are you organized or are you disorganized? Never run late for a class. It shows that you are not respecting the student's time. Always be early because something might happen. Something might cause your material to not work. The computer might come up with an error while they're taking their harassment training. And now all of a sudden you can't, print their certificates. All right. What else are you going to do? When you do have outside presenters, review the material ahead of time. Make sure there's no computer conflicts. If they plan on bringing in a video, are they going to be able to play it? Are they going to need something off the internet that your agency is going to block? And now all of a sudden, IT is off for the day, or they took a vacation day, and now you brought somebody in. You may have even paid this agency to come in and present it, and now they can't do what they need to. You just wasted a lot of money and a lot of people's time. Practice beforehand. Oh, so important. Whether it's in front of coworkers, family members, film yourself and go back and watch it. We are our worst critic, right? I found out from my daughter a long time ago when I first started giving presentations that I used to touch my face all the time. My daughter told me that. I don't touch my face anymore. At least I try not to. Something I learned, right, by having a family member or somebody else I trust, confide in, to give me the truth, to say, okay, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to present ourselves. Are we presenting ourselves in a professional manner? Am I speaking too fast, too slow? Am I being understood? That sort of thing. Last but not least, on being organized, is being prepared for the unexpected. You never know what is going to happen. And if something does happen, you kind of want to have a backup plan. I get this from my OEM days, that every in-service training that I have a written format of how to provide that training. Obviously, we had COVID come through. I got exposed to COVID the day before we were going to do a in-service training. Because I had my how-to written out, somebody else was able to do the entire program without a hitch, simply because they were able to follow the program, what I had written down. Being prepared for the unexpected. All the way, and it gets extremely detailed, right from who's ordered the food, if we're going to be feeding the employees, to what time are the breaks, what's expected, what kind of interaction is expected between the students, how are they going to evaluate the students for participation, and making sure that the overall subject material is covered. Those are the most important things. So like I said, you got to kind of be prepared for something to happen. And it's okay when it does.
Unless we harness the potential of every American, ensure that their skills match up to the work of the future. That starts with education, especially in fields like science, technology, and engineering and math. We cannot sustain, whoops, was that my, oh goodness, that's all right. All of you know who I am. But I'm sure there's somebody back there that's really nervous right now. What do you think? Sweating bullets back there right now. Where were we?
So even the president can have a mistake, right? But he recovered. Got a little off track there, but in the end, it wasn't that big of a deal. So what if the presidential seal fell off the podium? Things happen. Some people might allow themselves to be really bothered by that. And I got to call maintenance out here to fix that. And is it really that important, or can you just continue on with what it is that you need to do? That is the most important part. All right. So moving on to I. Is it interesting? Is the material that we're presenting interesting? Some of the material that we present can't be interesting. It's just boring right from the get-go. Find a way to make it more interesting. Find a way to waken them up when it's appropriate. Have upbeat music playing as they enter the classroom. One of the conferences I was recently at, I had a rather early start time. Post party the night before, no less. But we had some upbeat music that was playing as I walked in. All right. That was also a way to kind of get people into the classroom. Hey, here's where the party is. Get people to come into your classroom when you're fighting against other classrooms. All right. Have an energetic attitude. If you don't greet them with energy, they're going to be walking in wondering what's it going to be like. Oh, this is the guy with the crappy attitude. Well, I want to sit here and watch this. Or we all say it when we go up on the floor, how we perceive ourselves on the floor when people are walking in, especially when we're supervisors. If you have a bad attitude, your dispatchers are going to have a bad attitude. You're not going to be open to them for questions or assistance. And if that's the problem, that's when errors tend to happen, right? Give yourself a positive attitude. Make sure that you're coming in the right frame of mind. Even if you got to take a few seconds to check yourself before you walk into that classroom or before you greet somebody, make sure you're doing it with the right attitude. So this way you are presenting yourself in a more positive manner. And when you're doing that, you are going to present your material in a more positive manner, and it's going to flow a lot easier. You'll find yourself making fewer mistakes, having a more positive attitude. Because if you walk in on a disgruntled attitude, you find yourself being distracted by thoughts of something that happened earlier in the week or whatever. Next thing you know, you lose your spot on your slide and you're done. Knowing your audience. If you're going in to a crew or a group of people, either that have a history of not providing a lot of feedback or have a history of not always helping out or being a part of a class, find out a little bit more about those students. Find out what are their personal habits. What do they like to do? Did somebody recently buy a new car? And now you guys are talking about, going over the symbols acronym as a review. Well, you can say that Joe's new car got stolen, and you can use that as a reference. Do you have people that like to go hiking or camping, fishing? You need the medical component to talk about a scenario. We can turn it into a camping story or a hiking story where somebody got chased and mauled by a bear. And now we got to talk about bleeding control. We're making it interesting. We're making it relatable to our students because now you can use hiking trails that they have been on before. Allow them to interact. Last resort, if you need to, humor. Humor always sells. Even if you got to look up some funny jokes, make fun of yourself. Obama did it, right? If you need to, if you find yourself struggling, humor always sells. Another thing you do is check with your coworkers about other calls that they've dealt with in the past. Hey, would you be willing to talk about this call? Hey, I heard you dealt with the call for the lady who did this, that, and the other thing. We're not making fun of the person, but what we're doing is we're talking about a call that had some excitement to it, perhaps a little bit of humor to it, but how we handled the call in a professional manner. That's key. At the same time, because it's a call that they're familiar with, it's going to allow them an opportunity to become involved. They're interested in hear how they handled that call. Maybe it was done on a different shift, but now they heard the rumors, but now they can hear about the whole call. They're interested. All right. And there's also a way of getting help. Maybe they will talk about that call themselves. Is it nourishing? How many of us have gone to a class, whether we've done it voluntarily or we were voluntold to go to a class? We get there and it was a total waste of our time. We've all been there. We've all attended classes that had promises of this, that, and the other thing. And halfway through the class, you're like, I thought this was supposed to be dispatch related. They've done nothing but talk about cop stuff the entire time. It leaves them looking for more. So when you are doing your class, when you're evaluating what you're going to present, is it going to be what they're looking for? One of the ways we can evaluate that is by questions. Are there any questions that are coming out of the audience? Sometimes they just won't because they're shy. They don't want to. That's okay too. Sometimes you can get a hold of somebody ahead of time and ask them to ask a question to get people going. Because let's face it, once the first question happens, others tend to follow suit after that. So you can ahead of time pull somebody inside. Hey, do me a favor. At this point, I would like for you to reference this call or this question as a way to get others involved. All right. Or you can simply say, this question was brought up in another class or at another time. And it gives them an opportunity to feel that, okay, yeah, I was going to ask that question, but I thought it was stupid. Well, we've all heard the analogy, there are no stupid questions, right? Except for the ones that were never asked. All right. If you do this, you're giving them the opportunity to feel nourished, to feel that the information that they received today is something that they can apply to what they got to do next. And that is work their desk. If they go to a class and they don't feel that connection, they don't feel that the information that they learned filled them up, that they can take it back and use it on a daily basis, you're going to have a little problem with that. So you want to make sure that you're providing that information. Is it realistic? Maybe pull another dispatcher aside before you give the presentation. Say, hey, this is what I'm planning on doing. Does this really make sense? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Is it nourishing to you? Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what we've been looking for. Okay. Sorry it took this long to get here. Didn't realize that we were missing this information. Opportunity again to just check yourself. Is it genuine? Speaking of checking yourself, be real. The worst thing we can do is make something up. Been there, done that. Early in training, I thought I knew something. It was going to make me look smarter. I tried it, fell flat on my face. Lesson learned. No question about it. Turns out I wasn't completely wrong, but I was wrong just enough that I got called out on it. If you don't know, admit to it. Find out. Get the answer. Say, look, I don't know that exact answer. Let's find out. Or this is the way we have the policy now. Is it correct? Maybe we need to actually pull out the paper and read it together as a group to make sure that we all understand it together. If you are genuine with your students and you tell them, I don't know that answer, but I will find out, or take the time to talk with them individually about that, that tells them that you have a genuine interest in their learning. That will pay huge dividends. That tells that student, that PST, that you care about them. And that, by anything, is the most important thing. That's the biggest. If you can take that from anybody and earn the respect because you were genuine to them and genuine about their learning, they are going to respect you in the future for that. And that's something that really is beneficial. Again, we don't always know how to do everything, right? Sometimes we think we do.
Water ski, yeah!
All right.
Water.
You gotta cut to the right.
No, it's counterintuitive. You got to cut left. I know how to drive. Get at us. Maybe we won't be going water skiing. Shut up, Joe.
Hey, you want some help? I do this all the time.
Get back in your car with your wife.
When you're going backwards, everything's the opposite.
Oh, really? Thanks, driving instructor. I feel like everyone watching knows I'm incapable of pleasing my wife sexually. Cut the wheel! Cut the wheel!
No, the other way!
Hell, we're gonna be on the internet. Oh?
So you think Peter should have taken the advice of his friends and let somebody else put the boat in the water? Probably. Or at least practiced ahead of time so he knew what he was going to do. Before I jump into this side of it, again, practice before you do your trainings. Look for those little loopholes. Look for those areas that could cause you to not feel so comfortable, and give you an opportunity to sound more confident in what you're presenting. All right, so on to the second word, dishes. Is it dispatch related? Again, we've all done that. We've gone to classes before where it was advertised as this, that, and the other thing. And we get there and it's like, it was maybe 3 minutes of dispatch material. Everything else was either law enforcement, corrections, fire, EMS, no actual communications relation itself. With that, review your third-party material. If you got somebody coming in, mentioned this a little bit before, that's your opportunity to review what it is that they are going to present. You can communicate with those people well beforehand. I just dealt with that very recent, actually, about what it was I was looking for when I invited somebody to come in and present. I asked for something very specific. They said they were going to present something very specific. I asked for their PowerPoint ahead of time to ensure what I was telling my people we were going to be learning about was there. And in the end, it wasn't. They never actually forwarded the PowerPoint to me. And when they got there that day, it was, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. Well, wait, I thought we were talking about this, this, and this, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about. At that point, it was too late to back out, and we had to let them go through what they were doing. But try to speak with your people as much as possible to prevent those things from happening. They need to feel, again, that they can relate to the topic right in the beginning. It's got to be dispatch related. It's got to be something that they can apply. We just had a verbal judo class here with our in-service last week, and talking with the presenters before they came in, knowing that they had done the class here several years in the past. And I asked them to come back, obviously, because everybody has turnover. We had some new people to come in to learn. And let's face it, everybody can use a refresher once in a while, right? Well, the first thing we made sure we talked about was how this is typically a law enforcement capacity with the verbal judo, but how they understood. They actually sat down and spoke with the dispatchers before, or the beginning of the class, about how they handled the calls, so they can apply this new learned information and put it in their lap, how they can apply it. It wasn't just typical textbook, read from the PowerPoint, actual involvement of the dispatchers about how you can take something that is typically, verbal judo is typically done face to face. We obviously don't do that. They turned it into, no, it's phone to person, and about how we can talk to that person through the phone and use our active listening skills that we learned about in verbal judo to do that. They took the time to learn about the audience. That made all the difference in the world. It was actually an amazing class. Again, involvement. Are you actually involving the students? Without involvement of the students, they're just going to sit there, fall asleep, not pay attention, and they're not going to learn anything. Benjamin Franklin is the one who told us, tell me something and I'll forget it. If you teach me, I might remember. But if you involve me, I will actually learn. We had a in-service training a few years back where we needed to talk about fire service and water supply shuttle. There was a lot of our people who had no idea about that side of the fire service. So we learned about where they can find different water supplies within the county. And then prior to that, I went around in the communications building itself, and I placed buckets that referenced a standpipe, a pond, a river, another place, another water source, maybe a large pool, that sort of thing. And during the lection portion, they did that. So what happened was, as they went through, they learned that the first place they're going to want to go for that water was a standpipe instead of that pool, or depending upon the circumstances, where they can go. All right. By creating that exercise, that got them up out of their chairs. It made it a little bit more fun because they had to go around the room to do that. I had something pop up here on my screen. Let me see what this is about. Okay, I can disregard that. All right. Not sure what happened there, but it looks like we're still good. Everybody can see and everybody can hear everything, right? Just throw something in the comment there. Good. All right. Good. Thank you. Do your own call for papers within your own center. Can your people come in and present something? Are they passionate about something? We've got a few people here who love the mapping program. They love the Rapid SOS that we use. They've taken a little bit more time to learn about different parts of the county. So they can come in and they can actually present that to our people as a way to get involved, as a way to present to the rest of the students. This way they're not looking at me all the time, right? Anytime you can get somebody else to get a better scenery, better off, all right? Again, when you create an exercise that gets people up and moving, that creates blood flow, that creates a more alert, more active student. chances are they're going to actually participate in the class a little bit more. Happening here. Oh, I lost control of my PowerPoint.
Just try the arrow to the left there.
Yeah, I did that. We'll try this down here. Oh, it's mirroring. That's what's happening. Well, that's different. Yeah, I'm not really sure why, but if I go there, let's try that. Yeah, I've lost the. Do you recognize what happened, Ricardo?
Let me. I'm going to remove it from the stage and then just share it again.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and share it.
All right, we're back. Thank you, sir. Okay, that was weird. All right, so simple. Keeping it as simple as possible. Anybody know what that word is? Sesquipedalian? Probably not. There might be a few book smart people out there. Don't lose people in large words. That goes back to, again, trying to be something that you're not. Don't try to be over impressive. All right. If you use a word that somebody doesn't understand, you're going to lose them because they're going to try to be figuring out what that word means. They're not going to understand the context of it. And you're going to lose them. And once you lose them, it's very difficult to get them back. So if you keep your program as simple as possible, try not to overdo it, oversell it. All right. We're all human. We all do the same job as a public safety telecommunicator. Don't try to be the hero or the rock star that you think is going to sell the program, because they're going to see right through that. Quick side note on that, an example of what I did one time and how I learned my lesson on that was testifying in court. When I gave my testimony in court, instead of specifically stating the type of weapon that the person used, in my mind, I just said that they displayed a weapon. Well, we all know now that a weapon comes in many different fashions. Well, the defense attorney had a field day with me because of that, because I did not specifically state the gun. Well, I learned to state the fact. Don't try to ad-lib things to make myself sound smarter. All right, just state the facts. Amazing what we'll do to learn from time to time, right? Keeping things as simple. Don't make it over complex. If something does appear to be a little more complicated, get the advice or opinion of somebody else within your profession to have a second look at it. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier if you simplify it. It'll make it more comprehensible. Is what you're doing actually helpful? You need to ask yourself this before you even do your presentations, before you, as you're putting your lesson plan, your syllabus together. Is what we're actually training helpful? And if you feel yourself losing your people during your presentation, during the in-service, even if it's being done by a third party, and some of the questions, if there are questions, aren't quite on track with what it was that was presented, somehow we lost those people, sit down and speak with them face to face. Many of us, when we're doing classroom training, we're up standing. When we're standing, we're in an authoritative appearance to those students. That's not always a welcoming place to be. What you want to do is pull up a chair, sit down, be eye level, and ask them, say, hey, is what we're doing actually making sense? We just went over this new policy that I wrote up, and I went over it with my chief, and now we're presenting it to the people who have to actually follow this policy. Did we get their opinion before we instituted that policy? That might have actually been a better idea to do ahead of time. Because now what we're finding out is, hey, based upon the reactions, this might not have been written the way we intended. But we took the time to sit down, talk with your people face to face, and say, is what we're talking about gonna be helpful to you guys? Will there be a difference after the training? Is it gonna help their job or make it worse? I wrote a policy for now on hangups many years ago, and I put into it that, hey, we got to, check rapid SOS, check CAD history, call back, check a few other places. But in reality, all of that seems great. And it seems like that's what we want to do. But when the manure is hitting the rotating oscillator, is that realistic? When we got a whole bunch of calls coming in, and we've got these other 911 hang up calls coming in that have no signs of distress, is it realistic for us to expect our PSTs to be able to do all that work in that short period of time and still maintain their focus on the other emergencies that you're dealing with? Or do we need to tailor it a little bit and say, when it's practical, when it's possible, these are the measures that we would like for you to be able to take? Make sense? I would hope so. Again, making sense to them will help out in the long run. You're going to get better feedback that way. Is it exciting? Again, we have information to put out there that is not quite as exciting as we would like it to be. If we can get it to be exciting, if we can get them to be involved, perhaps it's a matter of we've been wanting to talk about how the 911 hang-ups, our policy is handled in this way. Perhaps you can have a police officer come in and explain about what happens to him when he handles the 911 hang-up call. Maybe he's had some rather interesting interactions with people during those 911 hang-up calls. They see somebody else, they learn the other side of it. The officer sometimes can add in some other information to make it a little more interesting, a little more exciting, all right? And that will allow the student to be more alert, more alert in class and participate a little bit more. When we learn about their interests, that will also add excitement to it. We're not talking about getting up and dancing around, things like that. But when you start involving the students, again, talking about Joe's new car, about how it got stolen. Maybe Sam's into hiking, and we talk about somebody who got injured on one of the trails, and they had a compound fracture of this, that, and the other thing. Make it a little bit more interesting. Make it fun. Make it interesting, entertaining. All right. All of that is going to allow you to get your students to feel more excited about learning. And in the end, you're going to be able to walk away saying, okay, we did this for the better. Last but not least, is it successful? How can we measure it? In a little bit, we'll talk about the SMART analogy. But other than that, how else can we determine that it is successful? For the longest time, we used to do paper evaluations for our courses. They were helpful to a degree. We had some people who just sat there and circled fives the entire column. Some people would not participate in them at all and just fill in a blank paper, turn it in. They would never fill in any of the comments, so we weren't really getting back the feedback. Of course, we have others that are a little more dramatic and like to provide extra information, including whether or not my tie matched my shoes or my pants or things of that nature. Yes, I actually had that one of my evaluations one time. But I didn't mind so much because also in there was additional information about how we presented and how we could have presented better. So in the end, it was good. But while they are telling us that they're learning the information, is that evaluation proving it? In the end, how do they know they really learned? One thing that I did find is there are a wide range of apps out on the market that you can use. I simply Googled evaluation tools, and I have the link on the bottom here about the 10 best assessment apps that you can use. One of them that I use is called, is CrowdPer. And it basically, you put up a QR code on your screen. The students take their cell phones, they put it up to the screen, and you can load the questions on there, make them interesting. They don't have to be, okay, SOP 2:13.4 says that you have to do this, that, or the other thing. It could be, today we learned about the color blue. Does that mean that Officer Smith can only have blue hair on Wednesdays? Add some interesting answers in there, make it a little bit more fun, but at the same time, you can find out did they answer the questions correctly. That's your source tool to determine whether or not they absorbed the information that you taught them that day or you presented that day. And you can use it as documentation at the end. God forbid something happens down the road and you need to verify that, yeah, they were taught properly how to look up a warrant. And I know that because here's my documentation about how we provided the information during training. Here is the SOP about how to do it. They're reading initials on there. And at the end of the class, we had them take this interactive test, and they scored at a 95%, which is an indication we can even look at the actual test answers to say, yes, they answered the questions about how to properly verify and execute a warrant correctly. So now you have to go to court, have proof of how this actually was a successful training. All right. And whether it goes to that degree or if it goes to the other degree of the, just not doing the job correctly, again, you have the documentation if you have to. Okay. Everybody's heard about the SMART for your training tools, correct? We can also use this in every one of our doing dishes as well. Is the information itself specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it realistic? Is it timely? Is it specific enough or is it too specific? Is it measurable? How are you going to measure it? Attainable. Are they really going to be able to reach that goal? And the realistic side of it is what we're doing. Again, I talked about with the now on hang-up calls. Is it realistic to expect them to do that? Might not be. Is it timely? How much time? How much energy is going to be involved in that? And can we do this in a certain period of time that we're not going to lose everybody? All right. So as we're coming up on the wrap up here, and that also means that my new students here also have a wrap up because their day ends at 4 o'clock. And you guys can actually go if you would like. You are excused. Do we have any questions out in the audience, though? You can leave them there. Nobody else is going to come in here. I don't see any here. I don't know if I lost anything when we lost the PowerPoint before. Let's see here. All right, Roxy. Why am I so awesome? I am not awesome. Now on bowler is awesome, not me. I
Come
get my
on,
strength
guy.
from now
Yes,
on
you
bowler.
are. You know you are. I like how
Yeah.
Roxy put that. I'm dying to know. This was excellent, man. Like as soon as you submitted this and I saw the name, and I think we had an offside conversation about it as well, and maybe even more so when we were at the conference.
Mhm.
I had asked you about it, and you said, "Just wait." Just wait. It makes sense. I promise.
And I don't think I overdid it too much. No, you're okay, Joe. I didn't overdo it too much, but I was starting to overanalyze some of it. Like I said, we're always our worst critique, right?
Right.
And that does that causes us to get off track a little bit, because my problem is that I have so much to say in this thick skull of mine. I'm trying to get it all out, and that's too much. I got to simplify things, right? Can't give them everything. I gotta, only give them little bits. Got to keep them coming back for more.
Right, exactly. It's the whole, student teacher thing, but the teacher always keeps a few things in the back pocket, right?
That's right. That's right. Can't teach them everything.
Yes. So yeah.
Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate that.
Yeah, when you get a chance, make sure to come back in and look at the chat and see the comments and everything that are through
I kept
here.
forgetting about that. I did that when I did another virtual conference. I keep forgetting about the chat. I apologize that.
No, it's good. I always tell people, if you want to utilize it, you can. But sometimes people see it and it kind of throws them off the flow, so they don't look at it. There's also I don't think I mentioned this. I only mentioned it to a couple people only because they kind of said that they didn't want to see the chat. But you can click on the icon, the little chat bubbles, and it'll go away, and you won't have to look at it. But it's there, and it's a good tool. And as always, it's awesome to have you on here and teach, because I think with all of us, and the reason this turns out to be so good for everyone and a great experience is because we're talking from not only the heart but from our experience. So yeah, there's points and everything to focus on off of the presentation, but we're talking from experience. And again, I think that's what makes Dare to Be Great so good, is because it's by dispatch for dispatch, and everyone here comes from the same place, and we're able to put it out there.
Exactly. And that's when we started out this morning. I actually had Roxanne's keynote playing for our new students. So the first thing that they learned was about you, Ricardo.
Oh,
thanks to Roxanne.
Sorry.
But that was good. Some of them, they said, just before we started checking social medias, Facebook and I gave them that information. Look up Ricardo's Within the Trenches. You're going to get information out of there. Now on Wonder Woman, a lot of information, a lot of encouragement, empowerment, support there. The help is out there. Accept it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I like this comment here in the chat too that James put here. He says, I love how you point out to make it dispatch related. So many years of trainers taking LEO training material and adding one paragraph related to dispatch. So when I was in dispatch, I remember that as well. And I like how you said to make sure to have the information, to get the materials and go over it, because I have sat in trainings before where like the first 15, 20 minutes was all, it was all like self-promotion, it's like, oh, make sure to buy my book, make sure to do this or that or whatever. And you're like, you're taking the first the first portion of this, like do that at the end. If that's going to come up, do it at the end or after the class. Don't do it right off the bat. Because then you end up losing everybody. Then they're like, okay, well, that's what
Why am I here? You're wasting my time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But so I love that you pointed that out. That was one of the big things. As you were saying that, I'm sitting here going, yep. Like,
and the other thing to throw in real quick here is that, like I said, when I call this doing dishes again, it was because of that, the feedback that I received.
Yeah.
And watching what Juliet, when she did her presentation about not everybody in your circle is in your corner. And this same analogy is that, this person was somebody I was looking up to. What I've actually learned is that this person is more of a rocket booster in my life. They're not a rocket, meaning that they helped me get up off the ground and then they break away and I never see them again. They weren't meant to be a part. They're not going as far as I am. I'm going to the stars. They weren't meant to go that far.
I love that.
Sometimes people come into your life and all they are is rocket boosters. And if you turn around and follow them, that means you're going to just go down and crash. Don't follow. Keep going to the stars.
Man, that right there. Yes. Love that. Well done. And thank you again for just being you, for everything that you do, man, and for this
Thank you.
presentation. I appreciate it more than you know. And people are going to be watching this, and it's going to continue to be excellent. So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
No problem.
see,
Be sure to follow
right in there.
911 Bowler.
Facts.
Facts. Yep, exactly. Follow 911 Bowler for more fun on the Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. When it starts snowing, you'll see him sleigh riding. I can't wait for the snow to start because this year my arm's not in a sling, so I can go sleigh riding this year and take the ball with me.
Oh, sweet. Maybe you can add a ramp and get some sweet air too. Well, no, you don't want to be another sling.
Well, maybe the ball can though.
Well, that's true. Oh, okay. I'm even more excited now. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's already a few videos on TikTok of him having some cool crashes. So
Nice. That is awesome. Well, we are going to be moving to the final session for Dare to Be Great for Era
Ready.
of the Headset. I can't believe it's already the last one. Seriously, it's something else. But every session has been powerful. Just all of it has been great and damn amazing. We will see you all in the final one